Burnout is not simply being tired. It is the specific, crushing sensation that your effort has lost its connection to the result. 2,000 years ago, the architects of the Roman Empire identified this precise state of psychological collapse, and they engineered a sophisticated mental framework to cure it. They did not view rest as the absence of work. They viewed it as a weapon. This creates a strange paradox that confuses the modern mind. We are told to grind to achieve greatness. Yet, the Romans, who built one of the most enduring civilizations in history, believed that strategic withdrawal was the only way to maintain power. You know the feeling. It is that Tuesday afternoon heaviness where the screen blurs, the coffee stops working, and you realize you have been staring at the same paragraph for 20 minutes without reading a single word. To understand why the Roman system works, we have to look at what happens when you try to do it the modern way. And today, the story of Rachel White will prove it to you. Baltimore sits under a blanket of gray November clouds, the kind that press down on the city and make the streetlights flicker on early. Rachel White, 22 years old, sits with her head in her hands. She is a nonprofit program director, a title that sounds impressive on a LinkedIn profile, but translates in her daily reality to being the sole anchor for a community center on the edge of Gilroy. The radiator in the corner clanks with the rhythmic insistence of a dying metronome. It is the only sound in the room besides the hum of her laptop and the distant, muffled sirens that constitute the background noise of her life. She looks at the stack of grant applications due by midnight. The top page is a smeared printout of a government form. She has been here since 6 in the morning. Rachel represents a specific kind of modern tragedy. She is young, idealistic, and incredibly capable, yet she is drowning. On the windowsill, a dead succulent sits next to a stack of unread self-help books. The books have titles like Atomic Habits. They are physical monuments to her desperation. She has listened to the podcasts. Last month, she spent $200 on a productivity course. It taught her to color code her calendar. Now, her calendar is a beautiful multicolored map of things she did not do. The system failed, but the industry told her the system works. Therefore, the fault must be hers. She opens a new tab on her browser. It is her 10th attempt to write the impact statement for the grant. The cursor blinks. It waits. It judges. She types a sentence, deletes it, types it again. The words feel like sand in her mouth. She is not thinking about the community center. She is not thinking about the families she serves. She is thinking about the empty feeling in her chest and the terrifying question that surfaces every time the distraction fades. Maybe she is just not tough enough. Maybe the burnout is a moral failing, a sign that she lacks the grit required for the job. She looks at the picture on her desk, a photo of herself at graduation, smiling, full of that terrifying energy of youth. She does not recognize that person. The Rachel in the photo is a stranger. The Rachel in the chair is just a machine that is failing to turn coffee into productivity. A notification chimes, a text from her landlord, a reminder that the rent is going up in January. The number is small, but in her current state, it hits her like a physical blow. She has no buffer. She is running on fumes, and the machine is beginning to rattle. She closes the laptop. She stands up. She walks to the window and looks out at the rain-slicked streets of Baltimore. She needs air. She needs to get out of this room before the walls close in completely. She grabs her coat. She does not know it yet, but this small, chaotic escape is the first step toward a 2,000-year-old solution. The door to the street sticks. She has to shoulder it open. The cold air hits her face, sharp and clean. She walks without a destination. She walks past the liquor store, the boarded-up row homes, the vibrant but tired murals of the neighborhood she is trying to save. She ends up in a part of the city she rarely visits, a street where the gentrification has taken hold. There is a shop there. It looks out of place. It has no sign, only a heavy wooden door and a window displaying a single strange object. Today it is an hourglass, not a digital timer, not a clock, sand and glass. She stops. She does not know why. Boredom maybe, or just the need to look at something that does not require a password. She pushes the door open. A bell rings, a soft, dull sound. The interior is a shock to her system. It is quiet. The air smells of old paper and leather. There is no music playing. There are no screens. The walls are lined with books and artifacts that look like they belong in a museum. In the back of the room, a man sits at a desk. He is repairing the binding of a book. He does not look up immediately. His hands move with a precision that Rachel has not seen in years. He is older, perhaps in his 60s, with gray hair and a posture that is perfectly aligned. He radiates a quality she cannot name. It is a kind of weight. The man, whose name is Elias, finally looks up. He does not smile, but his face is not unkind. He sets down his tool. He waits. The silence stretches. Rachel feels the urge to fill it, to apologize for intruding, to explain that she is just looking. She shifts her weight. She pulls out her phone to check the time. A reflex. The screen is black. She puts it away. The silence continues. It is unnerving. It feels like a challenge. When Elias speaks, his voice is low and rough. "You are vibrating," he says. Rachel blinks. "Excuse me?" "Your hands," Elias says, nodding toward her fingers which are twitching against her coat. "You are vibrating, but you are standing still." Rachel looks at her hands. She shoves them in her pockets. I have a lot to do. I shouldn't even be here." Elias studies her. He leans back in his chair. The chair creaks. It is the only sound in the room. He tilts his head, his eyes narrowing slightly. He is looking past her skin, past the fatigue, into the engine of her mind. "What are you running from?" he asks. The question is simple. It's not an interrogation, but an invitation. Rachel opens her mouth to answer. She wants to say deadlines. She wants to say rent. She wants to say failure. But the words stick. She realizes with a sudden flush of shame that she does not know. She has been moving so fast that she forgot the destination. She stares at him. She has no answer. Look at your own life for a moment. If someone asked you that question right now, as you sit in traffic or stare at your own screen, what would you say? What is the engine driving the motion? If you cannot answer, you are not moving. You are merely trembling. Elias nods, as if her silence was the answer he expected. He turns back to his book. "Come back tomorrow," he says, "at this time. We will find the ground." "But I have work," Rachel says. It is a reflex. "If you had work," Elias says, without looking up, "you would be doing it. You are here. Come back." He dismisses her with a gesture. Rachel stands there for a second, stunned. She feels dismissed, yet strangely seen. She turns and walks out into the Baltimore gray. The cold air feels different now. It feels like a question. The next day, Rachel returns. She tells herself it is a waste of time. She has a budget meeting in 3 hours. She has staff emails to answer. But she goes. The shop is the same. The silence is the same. Elias is there. He is not fixing a book today. He is sitting in a chair by the window, watching the hourglass. The sand is flowing. It is slow. Rachel sits. She fidgets. She crosses her legs, then uncrosses them. "You want to cure the exhaustion," Elias says. "It is not a question. I want to get things done," Rachel corrects him. "I want to be effective. I want to stop feeling like I'm drowning." "You think drowning is a lack of movement," Elias says. "You think if you kick harder, you will reach the shore. But you are in the middle of the ocean. Kicking harder just exhausts you. You need a different relationship with the water." He leans forward. He speaks with a weight that commands attention. He introduces a concept that sounds foreign to her modern, optimized ears. He talks about the Roman idea of gravitas. He does not use the word like a historian. He uses it like a mechanic describing a part of an engine. "The Romans understood something we forgot," Elias says. "They had a word for the weight a man must carry to remain upright. They called it gravitas. It is not serious. It is depth. You are trying to operate with 1,000 tiny thoughts, 1,000 frantic anxieties. You are light. You are scattered. You blow away in the wind. To cure burnout, you must become heavy." He gestures to the hourglass. The sand falls. It does not rush. It falls because it is heavy. Gravity does the work. You are trying to push the sand. Rachel watches the sand. It is hypnotic. "So relax? That's it? I just chill out?" Elias smiles. It is a small, dry smile. "No. Relaxation is what you do on a couch. This is different. This is otium. It is not idleness. It is strategic stillness. A soldier in a trench does not run all the time. He waits. He conserves. He sharpens his blade. He creates a space where the chaos cannot enter. You have no space. You are all front line. You are all noise." He tells her to go back to her office. He tells her to pick one task, just one. But before she touches the keyboard, she must sit for 5 minutes. No phone, no reading, just sitting. She must let the vibration settle. She must let the sand fall. "You are afraid of the silence," Elias says as she stands to leave. "You think silence is empty. You fill it with noise because you are afraid of what you will hear. But the silence is where the strength comes from. Do the exercise. Rachel leaves. She is skeptical. It sounds like meditation. She hates meditation. Her mind wanders. She is bad at it. But she respects the man. He carries that weight she lacks. She goes back to the office. The chaos is waiting. The emails have bred in her absence. She sits at her desk. She looks at the screen. She remembers the instruction. She puts her hands in her lap. She sits. The first minute is agony. Her brain screams. It lists the tasks. It creates scenarios of failure. It itches. It wants the dopamine hit of the notification. She resists. She breathes. She thinks of the hourglass. She thinks of gravity. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the noise begins to thin. She feels her heartbeat in her ears. She feels the weight of her body in the chair. For a brief second, the vibration stops. She opens her eyes. She writes the email. It takes 3 minutes. It is done. She feels a tiny, fragile spark of clarity. It is small, but it is real. She has bought into the lie that speed equals efficiency. She has been trying to outrun the burnout. For a moment, she tried to sit still within it. Weeks pass. Rachel returns to the shop, on and off. She applies the method. She carves out small pockets of Otium in her day. She feels marginally better. She is less frantic. She is producing work, but it feels brittle. She is mimicking the stillness, but she has not mastered the internal state. She is still checking the clock. She is still measuring her worth by the output. She is using the Roman tactic, but she is applying it with a modern mindset. She is treating stillness as a productivity hack, a means to an end. She is missing the point. She is using the gravity, but she has not become the weight. One evening, she is sitting with Elias. She's frustrated. "I'm doing it," she says. "I'm pausing, I'm breathing. But I still feel empty. I feel like I'm just pausing the inevitable crash." Elias looks at her. He sees the struggle. He sees that she is holding the technique at arm's length. She is treating it like a tool she picks up and puts down. She has not integrated it into her soul. "You are waiting for the result," Elias says. "You are sitting in the silence, but you are waiting for the bell to ring. You are not in the silence. You are beside it. You are still running. You have just learned to run in place." He leans in. He introduces the second pillar. He speaks of Ataraxia. It is a Greek word, stolen and refined by the Romans. It means a state of robust tranquility, a soul that cannot be shaken by external fortune or misfortune. "You want the work to save you," Elias says. "You want the nonprofit, the grant, the success to give you peace. But the world is chaos. The grant will fail. The money will run out. If your peace depends on the outside world, you are a leaf in a storm. Ataraxia is the anchor. It is the realization that the only fortress is inside your own mind. You have built your house on sand, Rachel. You need to build walls." Rachel nods. She understands the concept. It makes sense intellectually. She decides to try harder. She will be more stoic. She will be more still. Science offers a bridge here to understand why Rachel is struggling. The narrator steps into the space between the lessons. The Roman concept of ataraxia aligns perfectly with modern neuroscience, specifically the function of the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for executive function, decision-making, and emotional regulation. It is the CEO of the brain. However, under chronic stress, the CEO goes offline. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, hijacks the controls. It initiates a fight-or-flight response. It pumps the system with cortisol and adrenaline. The modern worker, like Rachel, lives in a state of chronic amygdala activation. The emails, the bills, the pressure. The prefrontal cortex is starved of resources. Logic fails. Decision-making becomes erratic. The Roman practice of Otium, of strategic disengagement, is not just philosophy. It is a biological reset switch. It forces the amygdala to stand down. It allows the prefrontal cortex to come back online. Rachel is trying to use a damaged brain to fix a damaged brain. She is trying to think her way out of a stress response that is designed to shut down thinking. The stillness is the only way to reopen the pathway. But biology takes time. Neural pathways are like trails in a forest. They are overgrown with the brambles of bad habit. She is trying to walk a path she has not used in years. She is stumbling in the dark. 3 months go by. The seasons change in Baltimore. The winter is brutal. The pipes freeze in the community center. Rachel is running on a new kind of energy. It is cleaner, but it is still forced. She is using the tools. She is finding pockets of silence. She feels like she is winning. She tells Elias about her victories. She tells him about the grant she secured and the new program she launched. She uses words like momentum and efficiency. Elias listens. He says little. He simply watches her eyes. He sees the frantic gleam returning. She has polished the outside, but the inside is still hollow. She has cured the symptom, but she has not cured the soul. She has created a more efficient machine, but she has not created a human being. Then the inevitable happens. It is a Tuesday. The sky is a flat sheet of white. Rachel is in her office. She is organizing her files. She is feeling good. She has just finished a report. She is riding the high of a productive day. The phone rings. It is the executive director of the nonprofit. The call is brief. It is clinical. The main donor for the fiscal year has pulled out. It is a massive sum. It is the money that funds the after-school program. It is the money that pays the staff. It is the money that keeps the lights on. The director does not yell. He just gives the news. He says they have 2 weeks to find a replacement, or they shut down the program. Rachel hangs up the phone. She sits in the silence. But this time, the silence is not the Roman silence of Otium. It is the silence of the void. The walls of her fortress, the ones she thought she was building, crumble instantly. Her tranquility was conditional. It was based on the idea that her work was working. The moment the work failed, the peace evaporated. The vibration returns, but it is a seismic event. Her chest tightens. The room tilts. She realizes, with a cold, sharp clarity, that she has learned nothing. She has simply been resting so she could run faster. Now, she has nowhere to run. She stares at the blank screen. The cursor blinks, mocking her. She is back where she started, but now she has no money, no hope, and a terrifying realization that her Roman cure was just a bandage on a bullet wound. The streets of Baltimore are slick with rain, reflecting the streetlights in long, broken streaks of neon. It is past midnight. Rachel stands outside the shop. The lights are off, but she knows he is there. She pounds on the heavy wooden door. The sound is dull, absorbed by the thickness of the oak. She waits. She pounds again. The door opens. Elias stands there in a heavy wool sweater. He does not look angry. He does not look tired. He looks like stone. "You lost," he says. Rachel pushes past him into the darkness of the shop. The smell of old paper is overpowering. "They pulled the funding," she says. Her voice is shaking. "It's over. I tried the silence. I tried the stillness. It didn't work. I'm still ruined." Elias walks past her to the back of the shop. He strikes a match. A single candle flares to life on his desk. The light casts long, dancing shadows against the bookshelves. He sits down. He does not offer her a seat. "Good," he says. Rachel stares at him. "Good? The program is going to shut down." "You are building a house on a fault line," Elias says. His voice is flat. "The earthquake came. The house fell. You blame the earthquake. You should blame the foundation." "I did what you said," Rachel snaps. "I paused. I found the gravity." "You paused so you could run faster," Elias corrects her. He leans forward. The candlelight catches the sharp angles of his face. "You used the silence as a tool to get the money. You treated the peace as a means to an end. That is not ataraxia. That is bargaining. You were still vibrating. You were just vibrating slower." Rachel slumps. The fight goes out of her. She leans against a bookshelf. "Then what is the point? If the money is gone, if the work fails, what is the point of any of this?" "That is the real war," Elias says. "The money was a skirmish. The job was a skirmish. The real war is in here." He taps his chest. "You asked me months ago what you were running from. Now you know. You were running from the possibility that you are not your output. You think that if you stop producing, you disappear. The money is gone. You are still here. Why?" Rachel opens her mouth. She closes it. The question hangs in the air, heavy and terrifying. Why is she still here? If the job defines her, and the job is dead, she should be nothing. But she feels something else. She feels a strange, cold clarity. She is angry. She is sad. "But she is not gone, because I still care," she whispers. "Exactly," Elias says. "The external result is dead. The internal fire remains. That is your only possession. Stop trying to save the program. Go back. Do not work for the result. Work for the work. If the center closes, let it close. But do not let it close, because you were too afraid to stand in the fire without flinching. Go." He blows out the candle. "Go and burn." Rachel walks back through the Baltimore streets. She arrives at the community center at 2 in the morning. The building is dark. The radiator is silent. She unlocks the door. The air inside is stale, smelling of dust and old carpet. She walks to her office. The stack of grant applications is still there. The denial is sitting on top. She sits in the chair. The screen is black. She sees her reflection in the glass. She looks exhausted. She does not turn on the computer. She sits. She breathes. This is different. She is not pausing to gain energy for a sprint. She is pausing because there is nothing left to do but pause. She closes her eyes. She feels the panic in her chest. It feels like a trapped animal. She does not try to soothe it. She does not try to push it away. She watches it. She feels the weight of the situation. The center might close. She might fail publicly. She might lose her job. She accepts it. She lets the weight sit on her shoulders. It is crushing, but it is real. It is the ground. The narrator steps back. In the realm of modern psychology, this moment aligns with the concept of acceptance and commitment therapy, though the Romans knew it as amor fati, the love of fate. When the brain fights reality, it creates suffering. When the brain accepts reality, even a harsh one, the energy spent on resistance is freed. Rachel's amygdala had been screaming, "Danger!" for months. By finally accepting the worst-case scenario, the death of the program, the danger lost its power. The prefrontal cortex re-engaged. She stopped fighting the ocean and learned to tread water. She opens her eyes. She turns on the lamp. The yellow light bulb on its. She pushes the grant applications aside. She takes a blank sheet of paper. She starts to write. She does not write a grant proposal. She writes a letter. She writes to the families she serves. She explains the situation. She writes honestly. She writes about the struggle, the failure of the funding, and the reality of the situation. She does not spin it. She does not use non-profit speak. She writes with Gravitas. She writes for 2 hours. The pen scratches against the paper. It is the only sound in the building. She is not checking the clock. She is not checking the outcome. She is simply placing one word after another. This is the inner furnace. It does not need fuel from the outside world. It burns its own fuel. The next day, she sends the letter. She does not send it to a foundation. She sends it to the community. She posts it on the bulletin board. She hands it to the staff. She braces for the fallout. The fear is still there, but it is quiet. It is a background noise, not a siren. 3 days pass. The phone rings, not the donor, but a local business owner, a man who runs a grocery store 3 blocks away. He read the letter. He did not read a grant proposal. He read the truth. He asks to meet. He does not offer the full amount, but he offers the use of his delivery truck for the food bank. He offers a small check to keep the lights on for another month. Rachel stands in the loading dock watching the volunteers load the truck. She is cold. She is tired, but she is still. A staff member walks by, a woman named Sarah, who has worked there for 20 years. Sarah stops. She looks at Rachel. She does not smile. She nods. "You look different," Sarah says. "Different how?" Rachel asks. "Quieter," Sarah says. "Like you aren't trying to outrun the building." Sarah walks away. Rachel touches the brick wall of the center. It is rough and cold. She realizes that for the first time in a year, she is not trying to escape this place. She is not trying to leverage it for a better career. She is simply inside it. The system worked. It did not save the result. It saved the person. Elias stands by the window of his shop. He watches Rachel walk past a week later. She is walking slowly. She is not checking her phone. He turns back to his work. The crisis is managed. He knows the real test is not the crisis. The real test is the return to normal. The ordinary is where resolve goes to die. 6 months later, the crisis is a memory. The funding stabilized at a lower level, but the center is functioning. The pressure is off. Rachel is back in her office. The sun is streaming through the window. It is a Saturday afternoon. She has no urgent deadlines. The email inbox is manageable. The radiator is silent. The crisis required action. The normalcy requires something harder. It requires discipline. She sits on the couch in the corner of her apartment. The TV remote is on the coffee table. Netflix is 1 click away. The bed is 10 feet away, soft and inviting. The silence of the apartment feels heavy. The temptation is not to work. The temptation is to numb. The old Rachel would have collapsed into the couch, exhausted by the very absence of urgency. The old Rachel would have rewarded herself for surviving by checking out. She picks up the remote. She looks at the black screen. She feels the pull of the modern cube. Just relax. Just binge. just disappear. The brain craves the dopamine hit of the screen. It is a siren song. She remembers Elias. She remembers the Roman legionary. A soldier in peacetime does not discard his sword. He oils it. He sharpens it. He maintains the weight. She puts the remote down. She stands up. She walks to the small wooden table by the window. She sits. She has no grant to write. She has no crisis to manage. She has only the silence. Pulls out a book, a history of the Stoics, reads one page, looks out the window at the Baltimore skyline, sits in the silence for 20 minutes. It's not waiting for a bell to ring. She is building the fortress. Identity is not built in the earthquake. Identity is built on a quiet Tuesday afternoon when no one is watching. Neuroscientists call this Hebbian learning. Neurons that fire together wire together. Every time Rachel chooses the difficult stillness over the easy numbness, she physically reshapes her brain. She is carving a path of least resistance towards strength. She is voting for the person she wants to be. The vote is small. It is invisible, but it is the only vote that counts. 2 years later, Rachel stands in a new office. It is larger. The windows look out over the harbor. She is 24 now. She is no longer just a program director. She is the executive director of a merged nonprofit network. She oversees 3 centers. The work is harder. The stakes are higher, but the vibration is gone. She walks to the window. She looks at the water. A boat cuts through the gray waves, leaving a white wake. She turns back to her desk. The desk is clean. There is a single sheet of paper, a pen, and a small hourglass. The dead succulent is gone. In its place is a small rough stone she took from the community center before they renovated it. It sits there as a reminder. A younger woman walks in. She is an intern. She is 20. She holds a stack of papers. She looks frantic. Her eyes are darting around the room. She is vibrating. "Ms. White," the intern says, "I'm sorry to bother you, but the printer is jamming, and the report is due in an hour, and I can't find the—" Rachel raises a hand. The movement is slow. It cuts through the intern's panic like a knife. "Sit," Rachel says. She points to the chair opposite her. The intern stops. She blinks. She sits. She looks confused. Rachel sits down across from her. She does not look at the papers. She looks at the girl. She sees herself. She sees the fear. She sees the desperate need to run. "What are you running from?" Rachel asks. The intern stares. The room falls silent. The hourglass sits on the desk, the sand waiting to fall. The Roman cure is not a pill. It is a practice. Its ability to sit in a room with your own panic and not reach for the phone. It is the ability to carry the weight of your life without stumbling. The realization that you do not need more time. You need more weight. We are building a channel dedicated to these ancient systems for modern problems. We are dissecting the machinery of the mind. If this story resonated with you, if you felt the silence in the middle of the noise, then subscribe. Do not subscribe to us. Subscribe to the part of you that is tired of running. Leave a comment below. Answer the question Rachel could not answer. What is the one thing you are running from right now? Write it down. Make it heavy. Then, and only then, can you put it down.